The history of the Enterprise B. For this history episode, we're going to Memory Beta online, and we're going to check out canon and non-canon sources such as books and comic books. And here we go. The U.S.S. Enterprise, NCC 1701B, sometimes referred to as the Enterprise B, was a Federation Excelsior-class explorer in service in Starfleet in the late 23rd and early 24th centuries. She was launched in the year 2293 under the command of Captain John Harriman. She was later commanded by William George, Demora Sulu, and Thomas Johnson, Jr. Over the course of the Enterprise B's service, she was remembered as a key figure in exploring beyond the Montgomery sector, mapping over 142 star systems, making first contact with 17 different civilizations. The Enterprise served as the flagship of the Federation. The Enterprise B was also the first starship Enterprise in 30 years that did not have Captain James T. Kirk in command of the vessel. History. Construction. The Enterprise was built at the Antares shipyards. U.S.S. Excelsior was highly controversial. However, Starfleet decided to use it both for economic and technical reasons, as the Excelsior had shown that it could withstand the test of time. Indeed, they would still be in service nearly a century after first being developed. Maiden Voyage. By 2293, construction work on the Enterprise had been completed, with only a few components needing to be installed, such as tractor beam and loading of photon torpedoes. Despite this, the Enterprise B was launched from drydock orbiting Earth on a maiden voyage with 300 guests on board in the form of Captain James T. Kirk and Montgomery Scott and Commander Pavel Chekov, as well as a large number of journalists. Although the maiden voyage was just meant to be a short trip out of Pluto and back again, the Enterprise received a distress call from two Federation transport ships, who were bringing Elorian refugees back to Earth. Although not fully equipped, there were no other vessels in range, and Captain Harriman reluctantly gave the order to intercept them. Upon arrival, the Enterprise discovered that the transports had been trapped in an energy ribbon called the Nexus, and the starship herself became ensnared in when moving into transporter range. Unfortunately, the Enterprise was too late to help the crew of one transport, the U.S.S. Robert Fox, as it exploded, and was only able to rescue 47 of the 150 people aboard the U.S.S. LeCoultre before it too was destroyed. Captain Scott devised a way to free the ship using a resonance burst from the deflector disc to simulate an antimatter explosion, after a plan to use torpedoes was discarded, as there weren't any on board. Captain Kirk went to deflector control in order to make necessary modifications as the Enterprise secondary hull was struck by an energy tendril. The Enterprise escaped with minor casualties and a major hull breach along sections 20 through 28 on decks 13 through 15. Kirk was believed killed in the breach, and the mission became notorious due to his loss. An inquiry followed, clearing Harriman of any blame, although several former members of Kirk's crew held him to account. From the TOS novel The Captain's Daughter. At some point by 2294, Harriman would have a dedication plaque for Kirk installed in the area where he was at the time believed to be killed. After obtaining a Burrell-class Klingon bird of prey, the Montgomery Scott of the future traveled back in time from 2370 to 2293 to transport Kirk off the Enterprise B at the moment where he was believed lost, but the action caused an alternate timeline to form, erasing the Federation from history. The timeline was restored when Kirk was returned to the Nexus. Star Trek novel Engines of Destiny. In early 2294, during the first mission following the loss of Captain Kirk 6 months previous, the Enterprise B was sent to deal with an outbreak of Tellurian plague in the Antares system, with Dr. Leonard McCoy on board as chief medical advisor. En route, the starship confronted a renegade Klingon warship, the Katang-class IKS Vengeance, whose captain intentionally released the plague to lure the Federation into violating Article 6 of the recent Khitomer Accords. Harriman defeated the enemy ship by transporter swapping the Enterprise's entire complement of photon torpedoes for Klingon crew. The battlecruiser was destroyed and the enemy crew captured. Captain's log comic, Captain Log Harriman. After the losses on its maiden voyage, the Enterprise was commanded by Captain William George for a deep space tour beyond the Montgomery sector that mapped 142 star systems and made 17 first contacts. In the late 2290s decade, Captain Harriman again assumed command of the Enterprise. At some point during or after 2293, the Enterprise B landing party was under the command of Ensign Demora Sulu, who marched into an ambush by the Brevant race on Beta Orvis 3, with Sulu nearly paying for her mistake with her life. In 2303, Captain John Harriman and Lieutenant Commander Demora Sulu departed the Enterprise B at Starbase 23 under the guise of personal leave, but secretly they were headed towards the Romulan Star Empire on a covert mission for Starfleet intelligence. The mission was to monitor for indications of advanced cloaking technology within the Romulan space. Command of the starship was turned over to Captain D-Man Renaud while Harriman and Sulu were gone. For 8 weeks, the two displaced some 173 hours into the future due to a temporal encounter with a star designated Odyssey. After this displacement, Harriman and Sulu returned to Starbase 23 via Foxtrot 3 monitoring station and retook command of the Enterprise. This was from Star Trek The Lost Era novel, One Constant Star. In 2307, the Enterprise underwent a rather extensive refit at Starbase 11 in an effort to bring it up to standards in respect to the new Romulan-class vessels. Several significant crew transfers took place, among them the arrival of a Boslik officer. At some point during the same year, both the Enterprise and Excelsior crews shared an overlapping shore leave at Starbase 11. Not long afterwards, the Enterprise refit was complete, and the starship returned to active service. 3 years later, in 2310, as part of refit efforts stipulated in the Khitomer Accords, the Enterprise delivered supplies to 4,000 indigents on the planet Kwakliag, in coordination with Commander King, aboard the IKS Katanko. However, upon arrival, Captain Harrison's crew discovered that the planetary population held in thrall of a corrupt Klingon governor who refused to accept the relief supplies. The next day, both the Starfleet and Klingon vessels were shocked to discover the entire planet massacred by the governor, their throats slit simply because they proved a risk to his crooked schemes. Filled with disgust, Harriman's ship departed Klingon space. Captain Harriman remained in command of the Enterprise until 2311, when the ship played a key role during the Tomed incident. Following the incident, Harriman stepped down and gave command to his first officer, Demora Sulu. TLE novel, Serpents Among the Ruins. The Starfleet Operation Manual stated that John Harriman's tenure as captain of the Enterprise lasted 5 years, from 2293 to 2298. The Star Trek reference U.S.S. Enterprise Owner's Operational Manual has apparently retconned the 2293 to 2298 tour to William George, with Harriman's second in command running 2298 to 2311. In 2311, on her first mission as captain of the Enterprise B, Demora Sulu ran into unspecified trouble during a voyage to the Rontinge Wall. At some point not long after the Tomed incident, the Enterprise B crew under Sulu's command spent 2 years studying the De Bruni ruins in the Baracus system. This mission presumably lasted no later than 2315. Sulu's first command of the Enterprise lasted until 2315, when she took a leave of absence to care for her terminally ill parental grandmother. During this leave, the Enterprise set off on a year-long exploration mission, which became wildly successful and earned the new captain a promotion to admiral. Sulu returned to the ship and remained in command for several years thereafter. On a mission to A Moon in the Desirelli Loop aboard the Enterprise B prior to 2319, Demora Sulu narrowly escaped death by both drowning and hypothermia. In 2318, the Enterprise B, under Captain Demora Sulu's command, participated in a first contact mission on Beta Vera 4, but without the participation of the freshly certified contact specialist, Hawkins Young. That was from the Star Trek The Lost Era novel, One Constant Star. Starting in either late 2318 or early 2319, the Enterprise was assigned to explore an unclaimed, unaligned region of space near the Zincathi Coalition, and was ordered to void all contact when possible with the Zincathi ships. With no return date specified, the starship conducted exploratory missions in the regions. Equipped with a dozen Class H shuttlecraft, 2 Garin-class warp shuttles, and a half-dozen cargo management units. 2 months into the voyage, a massive construct was discovered in the Jathori-Limbari star system, whose exploration ultimately cost the Enterprise, among other things, the loss of shuttlecraft, the Erickson. 10 months passed by when the Enterprise discovered planet Regeris II, located within the region, and planetside an interdimensional portal whose previous activation in 2308 resulted in the loss of the U.S.S. Excelsior. Attempting to rescue a stranded crewman on the planet located in a parallel universe on the other side of the portal, Captain Demora Sulu herself became trapped along with 2 of the Enterprise shuttlecrafts. In an attempt to mount a rescue mission involving the Enterprise and the U.S.S. Castopedia, Admiral Harriman used the Castopedia to destroy the Regerin portal before an overwhelming Zacathian attack force could claim it and cross over and board the Enterprise. Both Demora and Hekatu Sulu, as well as over 500 stranded Excelsior crew, were rescued. The Enterprise B ultimately returned to its home universe, albeit some 3 weeks prior to the original discovery of the portal, after 11 months of transition time using the Odyssey star. Again, this is from the Star Trek The Lost Era novel, One Constant Star. The ship's last commander was Captain Thomas Johnson, Jr., who took command in the early 2320s. The ship's assignment under Johnson was the patrol of the Cardassian border. The ship was therefore able to render assistance to the Bajoran refugees in 2328. When Cardassian annexed Bajor the following year, the ship was lost in deep space shortly after the crew contacted some unknown infection. Star Trek reference, the U.S.S. Enterprise Owner's Workshop Manual. The FASA RPG module, Star Trek The Next Generation's Officer Manual, has a different account of the 1701B's demise. According to the RPG sourcebook, on the reference stardate 2/9202.12, the Enterprise B engaged 2 hostile battleships, a Klingon L-24 class and a Romulan Z-1 class, in the Triangle sector, about 5 parsecs from the space of the Imperial Klingon states. Both vessels were defeated, but the Enterprise was also lost with critical battle damage. The upshot of the encounter was the end of the IKS activity in the area, as the rebel government could not afford to lose any more capital ships after 2 large-scale vessels were claimed by the Enterprise battle. Thank you for watching the history of the U.S.S. Enterprise MCC 1701B. Thank you very much to Memory Beta for providing the information you heard today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you already did, thank you. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.